Welcome back, gentlefolk and rapscallions of all persuasions. This was the first long-form video I'm making after San Diego Comic-Con, where I had the best book haul I have ever managed. I got 12 books, only had to pay for 2 of them because the rest were giveaways, and 8 of them are advanced reader copies. The first one that I read is the one that just came out a little under 2 weeks ago, and it's Arcana Academy by Elise Kova, which I also got signed and got a signed art print. I haven't read any of her other works, but I understand that she is a popular Romantasy author, and I am looking forward to the sequel to Arcana Academy. The magic system in this book is very well executed because of the nature of a tarot deck. Each suit of the minor arcana corresponds to one of the classical elements. Wands is fire, cups is water, swords is air, and pentacles, which has been renamed to coins, is earth. And then each card of the major arcana are embodied by a single individual alive at one time, and when that individual dies, the power is instantly transferred to the next person. The World card is a legendary 21st major arcana, and our prince Elise is trying to activate it with the help of Clara, our main character who was imprisoned for daring to use this magic without the authorization of the crown and the tightly controlled magical academy that regulates practitioners of tarot. Off the bat, we have one of my shut up and take my money tropes, which is a magical academy, and I find this is often hard to do well with adult characters, but I really like how it was done here. Clara sees some automatic machinery producing pigment powders, which was previously thought to have to be done by hand by failed arcanists due to the delicate balance of magic, and the prince is like, oh yeah, that's something we don't know how to make anymore. Cue another of my favorite tropes, which is everything we have is built on the bones of a more advanced civilization that came before us. Our main character is extra oh so special, but that's kind of the point of a fantasy novel, and she's also not like chosen one level of special, which is kind of nice. The repetition of detail for the twists to land is a little heavy-handed, and I say this as a Sanderson fan who gives you 3 very clear hints before he writes it on a 2x4 and hits you over the head with it. I think that maybe that could have been done a little bit more delicately and trusted the audience a little bit more, but it's kind of a minor gripe. It is Romantasy, but the spice is very light. It's even milder than Sarah J. Maas, who I understand is pretty tame as far as these things go. It's not my usual genre. I think there are a grand total of 2 spicy scenes. And my usual issue with Romantasy is that it's a romance story with a fantasy backdrop, and the world building feels really thin, and that doesn't happen here. Even if the author didn't specifically plan out a power for every single tarot card, she does enough of them that it feels real, but it's not so many that you're more distracted trying to remember what each thing does instead of paying attention to the main plot. The video game Strange Horticulture did this, and I'm sorry, but having 70-something plants I have to identify and catalog for a game with a 4-hour runtime was too much, and now I'm off topic. The conflict between Clara and Elise and the slow burn enemies to lovers also feels really good. She goes back and forth on whether to trust him or not, and the kinds of arguments she's having with herself feel realistic, and there's not the typical miscommunication stuff happening. If I had to criticize something, it's probably the pacing. The middle gets a little slow, and sometimes it feels like the stakes are not always high enough to keep me invested. And now I'm going to talk more story specifics, so if you want to dip out, now is the time because we're going to get to spoilers in 3, 2, 1, let's jam. I wish our main character had struggled a little more instead of passing everything with flying colors in the trial. Minor spoilers here for Brent Weeks' The Blinding Knife, so skip to this timestamp if you don't want that spoiled for you. Kip's black art and training and initiation always had an edge to them. His squad dropped 3 places following one of their practical exercises in the city, and there were only 14 slots available. Kip doesn't make it in, and it's only because the top-ranked initiate breaks number 14's knee after the evaluation that Kip, at number 15, gets a chance to join for that year. Kip has to struggle for everything we see him do, which makes his arc that much more compelling. Clara doesn't seem to be on track for an arc. She's already extremely good at what she does, and the constraints placed on her by the Academy don't seem to hinder her all that much, especially because she passes all 3 trials, even her worst one, reading. It would have been more interesting to see her start out with a failure in her reading trial, then pass the inking, and then the fight with Ezza during the wielding trial would have had slightly higher stakes because she needed to pass 2 trials to move on, and she would have only had 1 under her belt at that point. The plot armor is real. She is betrothed to one of the princes of the kingdom, and when the price of failure is being branded and sent to the powder mills, I never had any doubt that she would survive everything. but particularly when she goes into the section of the academy with the trials to get into the Fool's Laboratory and gets saved despite being pretty cut up, and there was nobody else around except this one person, I was like, yeah, okay, nothing really, really bad is gonna happen to our girl Clara. And then later, when she's going through the same labyrinth with Kalis, I didn't care that her sister's bracelet was on that skeletal hand. I never trust an off-page death. Turns out Irina and Clara are the last people in the world who know how to ink the world card because of their mother. Oh, and Clara is the major arcana for the Wheel of Fortune. She can wield her card to change fate, but she doesn't get to decide what that fate is. She spins the wheel and hopes for a good outcome, but the bad stuff really only seems to happen to minor characters. And then we get the reveal that the world as they know it was created by the current king, having previously used the power of the world card. Everyone tells Kalis that the woman he remembers as his mother never existed. Clara's mother is a member of a group of people called the World Seekers, and all along Clara has been told by her mother and then her mother's ally that this mythical 21st card is real, and that she should never trust anyone whose goal is to seek it. The most conflict that we see her go through is when she's trying to decide whether or not she's going to help Kalis with his quest to find the world card. There's a subplot where the bastard son of the prison's warden knows she's the escapee but can't really prove it or do anything about it, and he's the main antagonist for most of the book, Eza, who she fights in the sword trial, but it doesn't ever really seem to have any teeth. Prince Kalis's older brother, Ravin, doesn't believe for a second that she's the long-lost heir to this destroyed clan, but she is the bastard daughter of a separate clan, Clan Tower. As part of the plot to summon the world, all of the golden cards, or the platonic ideals of the major arcana cards, have to be gathered together. Clara makes forgeries of the ones that the king has and swaps them out in an elaborate heist that goes perfectly, which was a little disappointing. You expect something to go wrong in a heist and have the characters have to get out of it. That's part of the heist formula, the way that Happily Ever After is part of the romance formula, but the most that happens is she's delayed a little bit by some guards that her roommate and possibly cousin is able to boss around because she's from Clan Tower that supplies all of the guards for the crown. And Clara does make an extra forgery of the death card, and so she steals the real death card after she's replaced it where the king has all of his cards, and she keeps the actual death card so that she has the ultimate power over whether the world is found or not, because again, Kalis can't do it without having all of the golden major arcana cards. There was a little bit of can we trust him, can we not, over the guy who's the chariot major who helped Clara and Irina previously to sneak in and out of the academy, and we find out at the end that he never betrays them to Prince Ravin even though he could and he knew their real names. So that was a nice little detail. He does end up dying though. And the book ends with Clara being dragged off by Prince Ravin to be put with her sister, and this is exactly the reason why I never trust an off-page death. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and that's probably because I've been struggling to write a novel similar to this for 8 years now. I think I'm on my 4th or 5th iteration of it. In October of 2017, I started writing a story about a girl who was using forbidden written magic and had to steal the pens and the inks for it, got caught by a powerful organization. In my case, it was the mob, not the royal family, but regardless, they were trying to use her skills for their own ends, and I think part of my mistake was I was trying to do that, start writing something as a fan fiction and then make it original, but in my absolute Slytherin ambition and audacity, I was trying to fanfic Sanderson, so there was a gemstone and magical light aspect to everything that didn't quite mesh and I could never figure it out. I don't know, maybe I'll go revisit that story idea. I have too many books I want to both read and write, and I don't have the time for it. With how the middle of this book went, I'm hoping that book 2 in Arcana Academy is a little faster. I'm predicting that we're going to have several scenes of her being imprisoned. At some point there's going to be a reunion or confrontation with Kalis, probably both, because this does seem to be a slow burn enemies to lovers. I think it's supposed to be a duology because at the front matter of the novel it has her bibliography and it lists an Arcana Academy book 2, so I'm looking forward to that whenever it releases. Thanks for sticking around, do all those delicious things that feed the almighty algorithm, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!